please welcome Danny Kennedy to the stage in the studio here. Now, Danny, I know that you'd be excited to be sitting next to Alice because you kind of see solar as a panacea, and I imagine, the sun's in space, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose we're all in space,
and all these satellites are really solar powered. They get up there with a fuel boost, but they've all got solar cells running the electronics over time. So all the bits and bytes of data, the information revolution, it's all solar powered. Except for the nuclear ones, which is just like, wow, that's a crazy idea.
Mm. Yeah, it's like, how can we mess up outside of... I bet we put stuff like that on the moon too. I bet there's just garbage everywhere. I want to ask you this question. We had... Kevin Rudd was elected in 2007. He brought in the policy, as well as with some state governments, to insulate people's homes better, mm-hmm. and also to put solar panels on people's houses, and I think in some states pay people a rebate, so effectively people became mini power stations. And if you went away on holidays for a couple of weeks, you'd come back and the power company had to pay you, right? How much of a difference did that make?
Oh, look, it's been remarkable. The mix of policies in Australia over the last 5 years has driven this amazing uptake that I mentioned on stage. There's 1 million solar homes now in Australia. So that's about 10% of the homes have some solar power. It may not be the entire load, not all the energy that the home consumes, but a good chunk of it. And it's actually, it's 2 or 3% of power capacity, the sort of total of the grid. It doesn't sound like much, but it's actually a lot of the high revenue margin power supply that the generators make otherwise. So they're shutting down coal plants around Australia. So it's succeeding as a policy.
Because I'm just thinking in my head, when the sun is strongest is the peak use in Australia, isn't it? The maximum peak is when we all put our air conditioning on because it's too hot.
Yep.
So if I live in Adelaide, where it gets to like 43 some days, and it's not just kind of tropical hot like it here is here in Sydney, but like baking heat. And we all put our air conditioners on, that's exactly when my solar unit's going to be going mental.
It matches very well with the peak load, exactly. So they're making good money out of it, they're doing it more. The utilities sort of freak out and say, can we raise the rates to make up for the shortfall? And more people are driven to go get solar because they don't have to then pay for those rates. So that's been part of the virtuous spiral. And again, good news that the policy settings were working. I mean, there was a mix of them and they've been taken away and up and down, off again, on again, which is one of the problems for the industry. There's no certainty. But we're succeeding in the social policy plans. We're cleaning the air, we're reducing the carbon pollution, we're creating jobs in the clean economy. It's a good news story for Australia. And we're the world's leader. I don't think a lot of people get that. But numbers of the population, like percentage of penetration, is the highest in the residential market. And the costs for installation are the lowest, or amongst the lowest, certainly. We're in 3 countries at Longevity, and you don't see anything like you pay here in Australia.
Okay, sorry. Can you just quantify that? I've been working all the way through today, and I didn't actually get to see all of your talk. I heard some of it because I have an earpiece and I can hear. And so I'm sorry if I'm covering material that you've already covered. But when you say we're a world leader, do you mean in domestic power production? Because I thought some of the European countries are way ahead of us when it came to industrial...
That's right.
Renewable energy.
So yeah, it's a leadership status, league table for residential solar installations. Certainly Germany is the world's leader with both residential, farm-based, a lot of agricultural solar, some of that's ground-mounted as well as on barns and other business, and then industrial scale, flat roofs and all the rest. Australia has a remarkably small amount of commercial rooftops. In the States, I don't know the numbers for last year, but it's about a third, like really big industrial plants going in the desert sort of thing.
And that's what they do?
No, about a third of it is that, and then some are on warehouses and box stores and other big business, and then a third is on residential. So Australia's unique in the focus of the mix on the residential space, which is great because more people are touched by it and more voters understand solar works, it saves me money, does the right thing.
Okay, one last question. Someone once said to me that those photovoltaic panels take 10 years to recoup the energy it takes to make them. Is that window getting smaller, and is that true?
It is, and it's getting much smaller. It's now more like 2 to 3. But, there's an energy content that's put in to create the thing, so it's paid back over time. The whole fleet of global PV currently installed just really this last year has overcome that threshold and is now generating a net benefit in terms of energy. But these are machines that will sit in the sun and produce electricity with no fuel for 50 years. They're only warranted for 25, but we don't know how long they'll really last. They're only about 65 years old in terms of when they're invented. So they might go for a century, in which case the payback on the energy input or the energy invested to make them is going to be fantastic.